Good evening, everyone. This is your evening news recap, your nightly news podcast on all the news that I come across throughout the day, giving you my take as somebody who aspires to be a politician in the near future. Hopefully, all you guys are doing wonderful. Hopefully, all you guys are well. Today is the 14th of January, and it is Wednesday. We are ending week 2 of 2026, which is kind of crazy. It's been 2 weeks of the year. Hopefully, all you guys have had a wonderful year so far, and hopefully, all you guys have a wonderful rest of your year. Outside of that, though, if you're new here, please consider subscribing. All the support is greatly appreciated as we are trying to reach 1,000 subscribers on YouTube by this summer. And if you're on Substack, please consider subscribing as well. It's $8 a month. All funds go to me and helps me pay for the things that I need to pay for in my life, like my groceries, like my clothing, like all that. But outside of that, hopefully all you guys are doing amazing. And let's get into today's episode. As we do, moving on into our headlines in history. That's a great term for it. This today we have an event from January 14th of 1940, when clothing designers fixed trends at a clothing session, which is really interesting. The International Associations of Clothing Designers predicted menswear trends such as the tailcoats with rounded fonts and the conclusion of its convention. The Times reported Jerome Giuseppi, the association's president, claimed that American men, on average, were the best dressed men in the world. So essentially, it's just talking about, American style, and the style of men back in the 40s in this country, which is definitely interesting. Style is definitely very different than it was when it was in the 40s. Or how it was in the 40s. During my senior year of high school, actually, I spent a little bit, or I did a project on, outfits and stuff that people would wear throughout history. And this is definitely, one of the eras where people definitely did have nice clothes. I'm not the worst, or not the biggest hater, I guess, on clothes from the 40s, but hey, I'm just dragging on here. Let's get into the news from today. Moving on into the Trump administration segment, as we do. The first topic we have for today is Trump has said anything less than Greenland joining the United States is unacceptable. Trump has taken to Truth Social demanding Greenland becomes part of the United States. In this post, he wrote, "The United States needs Greenland for the purpose of national security. It is vital for the Golden Dome that we are building. NATO should be leading the way for us to get it. If we don't, Russia or China will, and that's not going to happen. Militarily, without the vast power of the United States, much of which I built during my first term, and am now bringing to new, even higher levels, NATO would not be an effective force or deterrent, not even close. They know that, and so do I. NATO has become far more formidable and effective with Greenland in the hands of the United States. Anything less than is unacceptable. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump." I just want to remind you all that we have the opportunity and ability to do anything we want in Greenland military-wise due to treaties we have with them. And if Russia or China tried to take control of Greenland, they would still have to fight the United States anyways, whether we control them or not. So, I mean, I really doubt NATO or Greenland would have a problem with Trump putting a golden dome in Greenland as well, because that, of course, it defends an island that is going to be very essential when Arctic trade routes become necessary because of, unfortunately, global warming. But outside of that, there is no reason why the United States should need Greenland. We don't need Greenland at all. We're the richest country in the world, and it's been like that for a very long time. We're the most successful country in history, and it's, been, or maybe not in history, but we're a very successful country in history, and it's been like that for over 100 years now. There's truly no reason why we need to expand our territory when we are already so successful. And every argument that Trump makes about this is absolutely horrific. He said the other day that we don't want, Russia or China to neighbor us. That's literally a horrific argument because we neighbor Russia with the border of Alaska. I'm pretty sure you can see Russia on some days if it's clear enough in Alaska. I'm pretty sure Russia is about 50 miles off of the Alaskan coast at its very tip. That argument is just horrible. Just like a majority of the arguments from this administration, we don't need Greenland at all. We really don't. In other news, the United States has suspended immigrant visa processing from 75 countries. The State Department has announced plans to suspend processing of immigrant visas for citizens of 75 countries. The statement reads: the Trump administration is bringing an end to the abuse of America's immigration system by those who would extract the wealth from the American people. Immigrants' visa processing from these 75 countries will be paused while the State Department reassesses immigration processing procedures to prevent the entry of foreign nationals who will take the welfare and public benefits. This will impact the following countries: Afghanistan, Albania, Algeria, and Antigua. I know how to say that. And Barbuda. I know how to say that country totally. Armenia, Azerbaijan, the Bahamas, Bangladesh, Barbados, Belarus, Belize, Bhutan, Bon, Bonsana. I'm struggling to speak right now. Um, Brazil, Burma, Cambodia, Cameroon, Cape Verde, Colombia, Congo, Cuba, Dominica, Egypt, Eritrea, Ethiopia, Fiji, Gambia, Georgia, Ghana, Grenada, Guatemala, Guinea, Haiti, Iran, Iraq, Ivory Coast, Jamaica, Jordan, Kazakhstan, Kosovo, Kuwait, Kyrgyzstan, Laos, Lebanon, Liberia, Libya, Macedonia, Moldova, Mongolia, Montenegro, Morocco, Nepal, Nigeria, Nicaragua, Pakistan, the Republic of the Congo, Russia, Rwanda, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Lucia, St. Vincent and Grenadines, Senegal, Sierra Leone, Somalia, South Sudan, Sudan, Syria, Tanzania, Thailand, Togo, Tunisia, Uganda, Uruguay, Uzbekistan, and Yemen. This is absolutely wild. We are a country that has been built off immigrants and has been based off immigrants really since the start of it. You know, literally everyone here, unless you are a Native American or descent of a Native American, is a descent of immigrants. Not to mention, you know, one of the most important symbols in this country is an immigrant who has lit the way for thousands of immigrants sailing across the Atlantic. That, of course, being Lady Liberty. She came over from France. You know, she might be a statue, but she's still an immigrant. For 250 years, our nation has proudly helped those come here, you know, and find a better life, find an opportunity, have their American dream. And that's not something we should ever be giving up in this country. For many, that American dream may be having a family or having a solid job. But for me and, you know, hopefully many others, the American dream is the idea that everyone and anyone can be able to live their lives successfully and be who they want to be successfully. To me, the American dream is the idea that anyone can find success or fulfillment. To me, the American dream is a country that actually provides and cares for its people, not a country that abuses and harms and takes advantage of its people like we see today. Look, I'm young. I'm 18 years old, going on 19 in like 3 months from now in April. But I have a lot of knowledge on this country. I have a lot of knowledge on politics. I have a lot of knowledge on the political system, this political spheres of not just this country, but the whole world. It's something I've been very interested in from a very, very young age. I've talked about that time and time again. You know, and I have a lot of knowledge and I have a lot of belief in this country. And before the day I die, I want to take a role and I want to play a role in building this country into a place where anyone and everyone can experience the American dream however they wish to strive to experience that. You know, we are a country that is based on opportunity. People look at the United States and see, or used to see, a country that was a light, a country that was freedom, a country that was a place to be successful, a country where they could take their families and have a better life, have a better opportunity. Yet, today we have a country that preys on these individuals, that goes after these individuals, that discriminates these individuals, that attacks them on a regular basis. And that's absolutely disgusting. It's not something that should be in place in the United States of America. We are the land of the free. We are the land of the many. And by many, not just Americans, many other people live here as well. And it's just something we're going to have to live with, you know? Imaginary lines on a map at the end of the day aren't that big of a deal. They really aren't, you know? And that's coming from somebody who loves geography and loves maps and, you know, understands the importance of all of that. Like at the end of the day, it's really just a line on the map. And if you're willing to be discriminatory against somebody for coming from the south border, you know, you're just a terrible person, truly. Anyways, moving on into our segment about ICE, a protester has been left blind in one eye following an attack by an ICE officer. A protester has been left blind in one eye after being shot with a projectile by an ICE agent. Hundreds had gathered in Santa Ana, California, to speak out against the murder of Renee Nicole Good. Caden Rumler, a 21-year-old, was at the event with a megaphone when another was approached by officers. Rumler and others stepped forward in response to this, and in response to that, ICE officers took action, firing into the crowd, firing a crowd control weapon, not an actual like gun per se, which hit Rumor's face. He would then be dragged across the ground by ICE officers, and they then would take him into a building. According to his aunt, Rumler can no longer see out of his left eyeball following a 6-hour surgery. And his aunt said that he is completely blind and that there is a hole in his eyeball. You know, how many people are going to have to be hurt or killed before lawmakers in this country actually do something? You know, we have had multiple shot and killed by ICE since the start of this year, and we're still having incidents like that, which is a massive issue. You know, Gavin Newsom needs to remove ICE from his state, and so should every single other governor in this country. You know, in fact, as somebody who sees Newsom as really just a scum as an individual and a horrible person, if he did something like that, he may even change my mind about that. You know, he may even change my opinion on him. But will he? Probably not. I mean, the Democratic Party refuses to be successful or accomplish anything. You know, I said this yesterday, and I'll continue to say this: if Democratic lawmakers truly cared about, you know, dealing with this administration and creating change, they would be willing to put their life on the line for this, you know, and for that. But you know, I know that's a big ask. You know, nobody wants to die. But this administration isn't going to follow the law. They're not going to listen to a court order. They're not going to listen to you telling them, go fuck yourself. You know, they don't care. They don't, you know. So somebody is going to have to take a stand here and say either you're going to run me over or you're going to get the fuck out. You know, the most powerful thing someone like Gavin Newsom or any Democratic lawmaker could do right now is to go out and protest at one of these events with all these other Americans, lay on the ground and say, everyone, lay on the ground with me. We're all going to lay in front of these cars. We're going to block them from moving. And we're going to tell them, either you run me over or you get the fuck out. And the question becomes, is ICE going to attack or harm a political figure, which I believe they won't. You know, I'm going to be completely honest. I don't think ICE will attack a political figure. Or, you know, will they run them over? Which I don't think will be the case. Sorry for the sniffles. We're still feeling a little sick these days. I got a bit of a cold. Sore throat too, but the sore throat has definitely gotten like by far better than it has been for the past 3 days. So we're making it through. I'm not going to blow my nose because that's not something I'm going to do on camera, but I'm going to stop it from running real quick. Anyways, moving on into our other news segment, the FBI has raided a journalist's home. The FBI has raided and searched a Washington Post journalist, Hannah Nanson's home, after she wrote an article about how she became the paper's federal government whisperer. Nanson was regularly receiving thousands of tips from employees negatively impacted by the Trump administration, and has now had her phone and laptop seized by the FBI because of this. This is yet another attack on free speech and journalism as a whole by the Trump administration. So we're rating journalists for doing something that has essentially been done really forever. You know, this is a full attack on journalists, and going after journalism and journalists like this creates fear, and that fear leads to control. And we all know that this administration desperately wants control over the media because one of the key ways to controlling a country and establishing yourself as a predominant dictator in that country is control over the media. You know, if you control the narrative, you control the world, essentially. It's how so many people have stayed in power for so long, like Putin, you know, Kim Jong-un, you know, I'm blanking on the leader of China's name for some reason, but that guy, I shouldn't be blanking on his name, and for some reason I am entirely. That's my bad, but like, you know, they have the Great Firewall over there in China. They control the media, you know, it's why they're able to establish themselves you know, as these leaders. I don't know why I can't remember his name, and that's really pissing me off. Like, I am completely blanking on this, and I shouldn't be. So I'm going to look it up. Leader of China's name, Xi Jinping. Yeah, Xi Jinping. For some reason, I could not remember his name for the life of me. It's why people like that are able to stay in power for so long. It's because they control the media, they control the narrative going on in their country, which allows them to essentially establish what's going on and what's going on in the outside world as well. In other news, a Ford worker has been suspended for calling Trump a pedophile protector. A worker at the Ford plant in Michigan has been suspended without pay for calling Trump a pedophile protector when he visited the facility. TJ Sabula called Trump a pedophile protector as he toured the Ford River Rogue complex, which led to him being flipped off by the president. In an interview with the Washington Post, Sabula said that he definitely had no regrets whatsoever, but he is concerned with his job security, claiming that he was being targeted for political retribution and embarrassing Trump in front of his friends. I mean, what does this administration expect? Nor what does Trump expect outside of that? I mean, this guy works in the automotive industry and for Ford for all of that, you know? I mean, this guy is a union guy for sure. Ford is historically a company that has allowed their people to unionize, unlike a lot of other companies throughout the world, right? And in this country. But this is a union guy through and through. I don't know what Trump expects. Historically, unions are not too fond of people in charge, especially when those around them are being taken advantage of. Not to mention that, but if you really think you're going to go into a blue collar industry or a blue collar workplace and not hear shit from the workers, especially if you're a politician, you got to get your head out of your ass, dude. Truly, I've been around blue collar these cats are fighting on this bed. I've been, in blue collar workspaces, throughout my entire life. I was big involved in FFA all throughout high school and growing up. I'm a farmer born and raised. My family grew walnuts. I know how to weld. And I have worked around farm equipment and so many other things. I have a lot of blue collar skills. I've been around this space, and as somebody who has been in this space, if you truly expect to go into one of these workstations and not hear shit from the workers, you're dumber than a sack of bricks, buddy. You really are. Because, at the end of the day, that's really the environment of a lot of these workplaces. They're going to give each other shit, and you're going to hear shit from each other. And if you're somebody who is holding significant power and people do not like you, you're going to hear shit, especially from these people who really don't have a filter. I'm going to be honest. A lot of the union guys that I've spoken to don't have that much of a filter, right? And it really is just Trump's ego here. But I mean, truly, what does this man expect? This really speaks to the fact that Trump has no clue about how much work it is, to work a day in the life as a true American. I mean, this man got his first million from his daddy, right? But also, he's never had to work a real job. He's been this failure or been this businessman, but he's been a failure of a businessman through and through. And he has all this money, but also he's not great at keeping his money. The man's gone bankrupt multiple times. He's had a casino go bankrupt. You know how impossible it is to do that? Man, Trump is something else. Anyways, moving on into our final topic for tonight. NATO has officially sent troops to Greenland. Multiple countries in NATO, including Germany, France, the Netherlands, Sweden, Norway, Canada, and many others, have sent troops to Greenland amid ongoing threats from Trump to take over the country. In a post on Twitter, Swedish Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson, hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly, said, they are a part of a group of several allied countries. Together, they will prepare for an oncoming element within the framework of the Danish exercise Operation Arctic Endurance. It is at Denmark's request that Sweden is sending personnel from the armed forces, of course, to engage in this conflict. This is a big deal, as it not only displays Europe's support for Greenland, but it also does escalate the conflict in one way or another. I really do not hope a conflict happens. That is not something I want to see. I'm not for war, not big on that idea, but if one does, by all means, I hope Europe rocks our fucking shit, truly. And I'm sorry for cussing, but I mean, for one, going to war with your allies is not a smart thing to do at all. That is a very stupid thing to do. But also, Europe has been through what the United States is doing and what is happening in the United States on multiple occasions, right? And if anyone knows how to deal with a fascist dictatorship, let's be real, it's going to be Europe. And look, we are the most powerful military in the world, sure, whatever. But uh, if you look at the win ratio, even though we're the most powerful military in the world, the wins aren't very high. And, with how incompetent this administration is, I would not be surprised if we got our shit rocked by Europe. I truly would not be. With that being said, though, thank you everyone for watching today's episode. I hope you all enjoyed. It has definitely been a very interesting day in the news world, that is for sure. If you're new here, though, please consider subscribing. While the support would greatly appreciated, as we are trying to reach 1,000 subscribers on YouTube by this summer. We're on our way to 800, so stop and subscribe if you're new. All the support would be greatly appreciated. And if you're on Substack, please consider subscribing as well. It's $8 a month. All funds go to me. Helps me pay for the things that I need to pay for in my life, like my groceries, like my clothing, like my bills, and all those kinds of things. But with that being said, I think that's all I have to say for today. So thank you everyone for watching, and I will see you all in tomorrow's episode. Later, guys. Have a good one.